David's laughter slowly died down, replaced by a lingering sense of foolishness that warmed his cheeks. The cupcake sat on the tray, its single candle now a wisp of smoke. I. I don't know what to say, he stammered, looking at the three of them. I was convinced. I thought. We know, Chloe said, her expression softening from amusement to empathy. We could see the fear in your eyes the last couple of days. We thought it was just post-op anxiety. We should have realized our clandestine meetings were the cause. I am so sorry, David. Dr. Evans cleared his throat, uncharacteristically awkward. Yes, well, the intention was to alleviate loneliness, not induce a state of panic. A significant miscalculation on my part. He almost smiled again, a rare and strange sight. Mark, the security guard, gave a friendly nod from the doorway. Had to make sure you didn't try to make a run for it on that busted leg. You had that look about you. As they spoke, David's mind began to rewind, replaying every terrifying snippet of conversation through this new, incredible lens. It almost fit. Almost. A small cold knot of doubt remained in his stomach. One piece didn't quite snap into place. The blood work, David said suddenly, looking at Dr. Evans. Last night, I heard someone say the initial blood work confirmed it. The marker is there. That's why he's perfect. He repeated the words that had chilled him to the bone. A birthday isn't a marker. And why would that make me perfect? Chloe and Mark looked at Evans. The doctor's smile vanished, replaced by his familiar stern professionalism. He let out a short sigh. That, he said, was the one part that wasn't about your birthday. He picked up David's chart. Your admitting blood work showed a fairly rare antibody profile. We have a research division here studying immune responses to traumatic injury. You would be an ideal, anonymous candidate for the study. It just involves us taking a few extra vials of blood during your scheduled draws. Nothing more. He looked directly at David, his gaze intense. The marker was the antibody. Perfect meant you were a perfect candidate for the study. The anxious intern you heard was concerned about the ethics of adding a research component for a patient who was alone and under stress. I assured him it was perfectly within protocol and that we would ask for your consent when you were more lucid. Evan's explanation was delivered with such blunt scientific certainty that it vaporized the last remnants of David's fear. It was all so mundane, so bureaucratic. The great conspiracy dissolved into a comedy of errors, a series of well-meaning gestures and medical jargon horribly misinterpreted by a frightened, drugged mind. We really are terrible at this, Chloe said with a laugh, breaking the tension. She handed him the cupcake. Now please eat this before I get in trouble for contraband sugar. David took a bite. It was sweet, vanilla, and tasted like the most delicious thing he had ever eaten. It tasted like safety. Later, after Evans and Mark had left, Chloe stayed to check his dressing. You really had us worried, she said gently. You refused your meds. You were jumpy. I even found your pills tucked under the mattress. David winced. I'm so sorry. I feel like an idiot. Don't, she said firmly. You were in a vulnerable state. It's a scary place. We learned our lesson too. No more surprise parties in the neurotrauma ward, she winked. What about the orderly who mentioned a gurney for transfer? David asked, needing to purge every last doubt. Chloe rolled her eyes playfully. That was Benny. He was talking about transferring a different patient in room 307 down the hall to the rehab wing. This floor has two 307s. It's a stupid design. We're always mixing up their charts and their meal orders. Of course. It was all so simple. That night, for the first time since his admission, David slept deeply and peacefully. The whispers from the hall were just the normal sounds of the hospital, the squeak of a cart, the murmur of a late-night conversation between nurses about their weekends. The next morning, sunlight streamed into the room. Dr. Robertson, his actual surgeon, came by on his rounds. David, I hear you had quite a birthday celebration, he said jovially. Word travels fast, David replied, smiling. It does. Also, I'm signing your discharge papers. Everything looks great. Physical therapy will set you up with a schedule and you can get out of here this afternoon. It was the best news he could have heard. As Dr. Robertson turned to leave, he paused at the door. Oh, and David, Evans from the research team asked me to give you this, if you're interested. He handed David a formal-looking brochure titled Understanding Immune Response in Traumatic Injury and a consent form. David looked at the papers. For a fleeting second, the old, cold fear tried to grip him again. A research form, marker, perfect. He shook it off. He took a pen from his bedside table, and without even reading the fine print, he signed the form and handed it back. "Happy to help," he said. Dr. Robertson took it with a nod and left. David settled back into his pillows, feeling clear-headed and strong. He looked out the window at the world outside. The plot had not been against him. The world was not a dark and threatening place. It was just a place, full of clumsy kindness, misunderstood conversations, and doctors who were brilliant but terrible at planning surprises. The real drama hadn't been happening outside his door. It had been happening inside his own head, and the resolution wasn't a narrow escape from evil, but a peaceful return to trust. The door to room 307 was now just a door, and behind it was simply a man waiting to go home.